Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/AmITheDevil for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the posts, giving you my own opinion, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Cross-posted from r/relationship advice. I, 32 male, hurt my friends, 26 male, girlfriends, 28 female, feelings by saying his ex was a better cook. How do I make her feel better? My friend recently started dating this new girl. I would say it's been about 6 months since they started dating. One thing that I noticed is he's cooking way more than he did in his previous relationship. This is the first relationship since him and his ex broke up for good, and one thing about his ex could cook. She made by far the best pork chop I ever tasted. But everything she made, she could do some crazy work in that kitchen. My wife is more of a baker, but when they would both team up, where she cooks and my wife would bake, it was like Shaq and Kobe. Now, unfortunately, my friend's ex cheated on him, but I was able to convince him to try to make it work. But then she cheated again, and there was no convincing him. It sucks because I miss those pork chops. Did you just say the quiet part out loud? Sunday, he had my wife and I over for dinner, and surprisingly, his new girlfriend was cooking. In his new relationship, he's been doing the majority of the cooking. Her cooking was average. His is good, but his ex was great. So after we ate, she said, "Be honest, how was it?" So my wife and I were honest, like she asked, and said it was average. We talked about how his ex was the most amazing cook ever, and gave her some tips. My wife said if we ranked her cooking, it would be my friend's ex, herself, me, my friend, and then his current girlfriend. I disagreed. My ranking is my friend's ex, my friend, my wife, my girlfriend's current girlfriend, and then me, but I think there is room for debate after the first two, to be honest. But I don't think it's close. My friend's ex by a wide margin, then my friend himself. You can play with the order somewhat after that. Then we talked about how combining my friend's ex's cooking with her baking was an unstoppable force, LOL. Anyway, her feelings were really hurt and my friend made us leave. My wife and I are confused because she asked us for honesty and we were giving her feedback. Now, I see we should have lied, but don't ask people to be honest and then get mad at honesty. But still, I do want to make it up to her. Any ideas welcomed. I'll take long to reply because I'm at work, but will when I can. Thank you. So at first I was like, damn, OP is being just absolutely insane here over these pork chops. And then the wife joined in. These pork chops must have been ethereal or laced with cocaine or something because all social aptitude just went right out the window. Yeah, sorry, your cooking's fine, but his ex's? The one that cheated on him twice? The one that we tried to get him to give a third chance? Way better. You don't understand. You don't even compare. Like, when she was asking you to be honest about her cooking, she probably just meant, "Hey, was the food good?" And was expecting, yeah, it's pretty good, or perhaps even notes on where to improve. Not, yeah, it's adequate, but it just doesn't even compare to the ex's cooking. Like, the fact that it was the husband and the wife joining in is diabolical. Like, she did not ask, how does my cooking compare to his ex's? She asked, and I quote from OP's story, her cooking was average. His is good, but his ex was great. So after we ate, she said, "Be honest, how was it?" So my wife and I were honest, like she said, and said it was average. We talked about how his ex was the most amazing cook ever and gave her some tips. Then it didn't end there, keep that in mind. My wife said if we ranked her cooking, it would be, and then the ranked list. This was entirely unprompted and they're dumbfounded at the prospect that they might have been the asshole here. Like, you guys didn't have to lie either. Like, you just didn't have to bring the ex up. Like, imagine going to your dad and being like, "Hey, look what I just drew. Be honest, what do you think?" "Yeah, it's pretty good, but your bully from school? Now that kid can fucking draw." "What? I'm just being honest with you." Like, see how fucked that is? God, man. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for asking my family not to meddle in my relationship because it creates more issues? My, 24 male, girlfriend, 22 female, is pretty low maintenance for the most part. We both pay for ourselves on dates, and neither of us really expect much for gifts. Last week, I came home and there was a basket on the table. When I asked my girlfriend what was up with it, she got all excited and said she bought herself some treats since it was pay week and has been having a rough time lately, so she wanted to do something nice for herself. She had her friend arrange the stuff my girlfriend had bought in a basket and leave it at my girlfriend's desk at work so it could feel more like an actual gift. She bought herself some rechargeable hand warmers and new compression gloves for work, a puzzle book and highlighters, a new water bottle, some thick socks, hot cocoa packets, a small stuffed animal, and her favorite candy. All in all, she said it cost her about $40 since she got a good deal of it from a discount store. I shrugged it off and didn't think much more about it. My sister, 26 female, stopped in later that day to borrow the air mattress and saw the basket and thought I had gotten it for my girlfriend and that it was so sweet. When I said no, she had gotten it for herself, my sister was all like, "You must be the worst boyfriend ever if she has to get gifts for herself." Then we got into it the last time I had gotten a gift for my girlfriend, which was back at the beginning of the year for her birthday. My sister reiterated her previous point that I was the worst boyfriend ever. It stung, so I got defensive and honestly upset and asked her to leave. My mom, 55 female, ended up calling and saying that I was being unfair to my sister and my girlfriend and that I shouldn't allow something like this to come between family. I got mad and told my mom to stop meddling in my relationships. Now my mom and sister are being cold. My girlfriend is also being distant because after I got off the phone with my mom, I dumped out the basket. Oh shit, dude. I dumped out the basket and told her to put all this stuff away or I'll make her take it back, because all it's doing is making me feel guilty. Am I the asshole for asking my family not to meddle in my relationships because they don't understand how a relationship works and only cause more issues? So there can 100% be an argument made that everyone has different ways of expressing love. Not every relationship, feels the need to give gifts to the significant other. But the thing is, which your sister should have taken this approach instead, your girlfriend bought her stuff a bunch of items, put them in a gift basket, and had them given to her as if it was an actual gift. That should be a crystal clear billboard lit up on Friday night in Times Square sign that your girlfriend wants a gift. That she likes that she wants that. And rather than your sister calling you the worst boyfriend ever, she should have just pointed that out to you. But what takes this from being you're a potential asshole into you're the devil category is how you treated your girlfriend after you had the conversation with your mother and sister. See, you telling her to pack this shit up and threatening to return it if she doesn't is just unacceptable, dude. It does show that you feel internalized guilt. And you know that you fucked up. It shows that you're embarrassed, and then you took that out on your girlfriend. She wanted to do something nice for herself, but now that's not allowed because it makes you look bad. I don't know, maybe do something for her then. She's already having a hard time according to you, so put two and two together. Cross posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for joking about my flatmates whilst they were being introduced as a new committee at uni? So, short intro. I live with 3 guys, not including me obviously, that are all quite good friends of mine, and we're all at the same uni and met in the same university society, hereafter referred to as UniSoc, last year. This year, 2 of them, Jake and Bob, were elected to the UniSoc's committee as the social secretary and treasurer respectively. Now, the actual situation. Yesterday, first UniSoc's event of the year took place and the UniSoc's president was introducing the committee. After every introduction, everyone clapped. When he got to Jake, he said, "Jake is our social secretary and he is responsible for organizing all our social events." Here he made a pause before everyone started clapping, and I managed to quickly joke, "He's barely able to organize a cleaning day at our house." A lot of people laughed, Jake including, but not everyone. And then everyone clapped and I shouted something like, "We love you, Jake," whilst clapping. The next one was Bob, and the president went, "This is Bob. He is our treasurer, responsible for financial matters of the society." Same thing here. Before people started clapping, I said, "All UniSoc money have been invested in our house." People laughed again and started clapping. And here again, whilst clapping, I shouted, "Bob, I am your fan!" The following day, whilst sitting in the kitchen, both Bob and Jake started telling me off for my inappropriate behavior at the event, for interrupting during the president's speech, and generally behaving like an asshole and clown. I argued that they knew how I am, that I made those comments whilst the president made a pause in the speech, and that people laughed and everyone understood that it was a joke, that I'm always sort of cheeky and cheerful. It's not like I've been wearing a mask last year and now took it off. They always knew I'm like that, and that I'm not really going to change. Would you define yourself as just a little bit of a jokester? Nevertheless, they kept pushing, saying that it was offensive making such comments during introductions in front of everyone, cutting off the speech and stuff like that. I eventually just agreed and said something like, "Okay, it's whatever you guys think." And apparently this phrase made them think I got offended, and started saying, "Come on, you're gonna get offended because of this." Whilst I wasn't offended, I was just surprised. It really annoyed me that they told me off, and when I explained myself and eventually just agreed with them, they kept pushing me, trying to make me feel guilty. Also, I want to add that I could anticipate Bob telling me off, as he's told me off before for calling him Bobby rather than Bob or Robert, and giving him a bro hug in public. But Jake telling me off came to quite a surprise. I sort of understand where they're coming from, but I still feel like they have unreasonably labeled me an asshole for what I did. What do you guys think? I don't like you. Like, you couldn't just let someone else have the spotlight for like a minute. Like, this is them actually trying to do something with their life and, maybe build connections. And you're out here in the peanut gallery giving commentary on just random shit. Also, way to out yourself for pretty much being constantly stuck in frat boy culture and having no intention of changing. Like, seriously. Just, gotta love the little insert there of, they always knew I'm like that and that I'm not really going to change. Like, dude, your friends, they're maturing. They're growing up. They're changing. They're moving forward in life. You don't shape up, you're gonna be left behind, dude. But to me, it sounds like you would rather drag them down than lift them up. Hence the peanut gallery commentary. Don't do that. Also, that final paragraph where you mention how Bob has previously voiced his concerns or discomfort with your behavior in the past, and you seem to almost write it off as if it's fine that Bob yelled at you because he's yelled at you in the past, and that somehow excuses it, but Jake is coming as a surprise because now he's mad at you, and you can't quite understand why they would find you to be the asshole when you were interrupting a speech that was dedicated to them? Come on, dude. Cross posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Would I be the asshole if I adopted a kitten and brought it into my mother-in-law's home without her knowledge? For context, I, 36 male, and my wife, 34 female, have fallen on hard times due to injury, disability, and financial difficulties. So we live with her mom. We'll call her Pat. We currently live in the basement of her 2-story house and pay a small amount of rent and utilities. We also provide most of the food for the home. That being said, we have no actual ownership in the property. Recently, I was diagnosed with some severe mental health issues that I am now on medication for. I'm also going to therapy 2 to 3 times a week. Dealing with my own trauma is very difficult for reasons I won't get into here. One of my therapists suggested getting a pet to help with some coping skills and increase my skills in responsibility and care. When I was a teen, I trained a kitten who became my closest companion. Since then, I've adored cats. Out of respect, I've asked Pat if I could adopt a kitten to that end. She said no. I explained my history with cats and assured her the kitten would be cared for, trained, and quarantined from the upstairs where Pat resides. I've also explained that this would be an actual benefit to my ongoing therapy, but she didn't relent. For clarity, she isn't allergic to cats. She just doesn't like them. To be more clear, she does own a dog, German Shepherd/Pitbull, named Ricky, who is scared of her own shadow. She flinches at her own farts and hides in Pat's room when Pat isn't home. The dog never comes home and is the literal sweetest, so Pat isn't against having animals in the house. But with other conversations about puppies as well, she has indicated that she doesn't want another animal in the house, even if she would have no contact with said animal. Despite my negotiations and compromises, Pat will not budge. Because of my history with cats, I believe I could bring a kitten into the basement we call home and train it with Pat being none the wiser. So, would I be the asshole if I secretly adopted a kitten against my mother-in-law's wishes? The cross-poster of this AmITheDevil posted some of the original OP's comments. Commenter: but your mother-in-law would be justified in kicking you out for bringing in a pet after she told you not to, or if you did without asking. OP responds: even if it meant also kicking out her disabled daughter? OP is the devil for just this comment alone. Mother-in-law is already doing a lot for them and her daughter, but OP keeps pushing for more, even after being told no. Also, when someone asked about how they plan to afford the kitten, given the aforementioned financial issue, they said, well, I don't think it's a bad idea, but how you put it certainly shows a perspective I hadn't considered. My wife usually handles the finances, so I don't often think about that impact. Thank you. It's kind of absolutely crazy that I find myself being on the side of the mother-in-law on this one here, but we have someone who opened their home to their struggling child and their spouse, doesn't seem to be charging them anything for that, is allowing them to pretty much live there and get back on their feet, and is met with, hey, can I bring a cat to the house? No, I don't want any more animals in the house. And behind her back, well, I might just do it anyways because she wouldn't kick out her disabled daughter, would she? It feels like OP is taking advantage of their mother-in-law's generosity, that's a hell of a sentence to say, and is literally leveraging his wife's disability for a reason why they wouldn't just be kicked out as cause for them getting a cat. Also, from that final comment that was included from the cross-poster, it sounds like their finances may not even be able to even accommodate that, and that didn't even cross his mind until a commenter brought it up. That just feels incredibly irresponsible. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for making a joke after my fiancé got a speeding ticket? Uh-oh. My 31 male, fiancé, 29 female, was always proud of how she has no tickets and accidents on her record. That changed recently. She was pulled over and got a ticket for speeding 34 in a 30km/h zone. I saw the dash cam footage and the GPS speed corroborates it. When she mentioned it, she was going on about how it was so unfair in such a small amount and she should have just been warned, and how people never get pulled over unless it's like 10 over. Okay, to be fair to the fiancé there, for those of you who are imperialistic-centric like me, that's going from 18 miles per hour, 18.6 miles per hour, to a grand total of 21 miles an hour. That kind of ticket is unthinkable in most areas of the USA, and oftentimes would just be thrown out. Anyways, I laughed and said that maybe her pussy pass got denied this time, and she has to face the consequences. It's basically just a meme, but she got upset and called me an asshole. I was referring to how sometimes, especially compared to men, women get let off easier. r/pussy pass denied. There's literally a subreddit about it. Gross. Of course, there are many ways in which women have things worse as well. I'm not denying that. And I think most people know that since we're taught that, like pretty girls get warned instead of ticketed. My fiancée herself once bumped into another girl's car and she let it slide and said the damage wasn't serious enough and literally hugged her and said something like, women support women. Am I the asshole for a simple joke? Sadly the worst, who is a frequent contributor on r/AmITheDevil and oftentimes will appear in streams on the channel, has posted a comment which includes some of OP's comments. Copied verbatim from OP's comments. Ticketed for speeding, 34 in a 30km zone. Jesus, that's strict. People routinely go 130 kilometers per hour on the freeway here, I had to convert, and the speed limit is 105 kilometers. You generally don't get a ticket for that unless the officer is in a bad mood. But yes, you're the asshole. What you said was unquestionably shitty, meme or not. It's incredibly sexist, and that you found it funny enough not only to say, but to then feel the need to go on and defend to her, and here speaks to where your priorities are with women in your life. This is one of those, I need you to tell me what's wrong with this situation without me having to verbally explain it to you situations. I would steer well clear of subs like that, especially at your age. You're way too old for that kind of nonsense. This isn't Canada. This low limit is in school zones typically, or high-traffic residential areas. You're the asshole. It wasn't a simple joke. You could have said, I know it's a bit frustrating, but you are above the limit, and the limit exists for a reason. Instead, you referenced a crass, misogynistic bullshit idea/meme created by miserable losers and incels who have somehow convinced themselves that the world is oh so cruel to men, and that their problems, lowly status, and pathetic life are somehow women's fault. The fact that you referenced that subreddit as an attempted defense speaks volumes. Grow up, OP responds. I don't hold that view. I think women have it harder in some regards and men in other regards. And it's also pretty privilege in some cases, so does not apply to all women. Just because a subreddit exists doesn't mean it's well known, or that it's some kind of, instant get-out-of-jail-free card because you referenced it. There are subreddits dedicated to both removing men's rights and women's rights when it comes to voting, childcare, anything. Just because those two exist doesn't mean they actually have any standing in the real world. And the fact that you know that this exists, and the fact that you referenced it in passing, says a lot about who you are in the circles you run in. And I mean a lot. Ugh. Cross-posted from r/AmITheAsshole. Am I the asshole for letting friends stay when we're not home? I love my girlfriend of 3 years. We'll call her Joni. I'm even planning to propose soon. We recently got a little guest bed in case a friend or family member ever wanted to visit. Monday, I got a text from 2 of my best friends. We'll call them Casey and Alex. Hey, this is last minute, so no pressure, but if Alex and I happen to need a place to crash this Friday night, any chance we could split that twin bed of yours? I responded, maybe. Let me ask Joni when she gets off work. Joni and I are going out of town this weekend, so it would make perfect sense to me to hide the keys in a secret place and let them crash Friday. Again, these are S-tier friends of 10 plus years. But when I went to quickly run it by Joni, she said she'd be uncomfortable having people stay when we're not here. I was kind of shocked and asked her a bunch of questions. No, it wasn't because they weren't trustworthy. She'd feel the same about her best friend. No, she didn't think they'd steal or break stuff or leave the door unlocked. Yes, it would be fine for them to stay if we were in town. I was confused. Eventually, she'd said she'd feel anxious and sick to her stomach if people were crashing at our place without us there. She said it would be different if they were signed subletters or even if they had offered to pay us to stay. She also said she would love to host them properly sometime. She just didn't like the idea of our place being used like a hotel, and she seemed to not want to set that precedent. She said if they were in dire straits, she could help pay for a hotel, or even stay in town this weekend to host them. Bonkers solution, in my opinion. I said maybe we could gently let them know that this is a one-time thing, and in the future, we would need to be present. But no dice. By this time, she was feeling very judged and shamed by me. I was surprised and saddened that it wasn't an easy yes. It's an unconventional ask for sure, but where I come from, friends help friends out, especially just letting them crash for a single night. By the way, this all started because Casey and Alex forgot they bought concert tickets a while back, and by the time they remembered, all the hotels were super expensive. It's not a true emergency, but I've been in similar situations and would like to save them $200 plus. I was embarrassed to tell them no, especially when I've crashed with them on fairly short notice before. Though, to be fair, they were physically present while I was there. I texted Casey, okay, so I buried the lead, we're out of town this weekend, and Joni kinda feels weird about having people crash with neither of us around. Damn, straight under the bus with Joni. We went around and around about it because I felt bad, and I promise it's not specifically about you. It's just a boundary of hers. Sorry about that, sad face. Would have loved to seen y'all. Luckily, Casey was understanding and responded with, oh, gotcha. No worries at all. I know it was a long shot. So, am I being unreasonable here? Is Joni... Edit. Incredibly interesting responses here. They definitely led me to apologize to Joni for making her feel shamed and telling her that apparently her boundary is very common. and that I hadn't realized it. We made up pretty quickly. I see now that Joni's feelings about people being in her home is apparently something a lot of people feel, and they don't need a good reason for it. I still don't understand why when I asked Joni, what if they offered to pay us $50, she said, and I'm now quoting directly, I'd feel better about it. But I may have slightly mischaracterized her feelings about that in the post, and I decided not to point out to her the apparent hypocrisy in that moment because I was trying to de-escalate. Joni also has a fear of flying, which she knows is unreasonable. Why, dude, what the fuck does this have to do with this? Joni also has a fear of flying, which she knows is unreasonable, but I had to discuss and understand it in order to better support her and make travel days easier. I have to say though, as long as so many of y'all think I'm the asshole anyway, I'm 41? And this is my third cohabitating relationship? I wonder how many of the loudest commenters have that kind of relationship and life experience. While some forms of consent are absolutely a simple yes or no, there are times when you need to be able to understand why your partner feels that way, especially when it's setting a precedent for how your home is going to operate. I understand where my partner is coming from. I might have a chance to actually get behind it in my heart and not just blindly back her up with my actions. But even after all the discussion she and I had, and me acting in consideration of her boundary, I still didn't actually understand the boundary, which is why I came here. But she said, no, it wasn't because they weren't trustworthy. She feels the same about the best friend. No, she didn't think they still had breaks us, just unlocked. Yes, it'd be fine for them to stay if we were in town. Still confused. She said she felt anxious and sick to her stomach if people were crashing the place. She gave you plenty of reasons, dude. The idea that I would broach what is a very important topic for me and then hear no and immediately drop the subject, that's a terrible way to communicate. It sounds like what someone would expect of a 50s housewife. If those of you recommending that are older than 35, please let me know because it sounds very idealistic and misguided. As for throwing her under the bus... Yeah, dude, that's where you put her. As for throwing her under the bus, Joni knows what I said to KEYZ and doesn't feel thrown under the bus because if her boundary is reasonable, then it's reasonable to report it. And she finds it to be reasonable. A lot of you seem to value presenting a unified front with your partner, but I also value being honest with my friends. Of course, backing your partner up in public or to strangers is important, but lying to your friends when your partner hasn't asked you to makes you feel less close with them. I'm gonna marry Joni, but they've got 7 years on her, and I'm not gonna put them in the dark about things. If she had asked me to phrase it a certain way, I might have, but by that time it was clear that I was cool with them staying and she wasn't. And sometimes that's just life. At the beginning of all this, I really did expect, naively, for her to say, oh, well, sure, yeah, that's fine. Should we leave them a key? I thought she was like me in this way. I will admit I am a people pleaser, and I can be overly anxious about disappointing people. That's something for me to work on. But what very few of y'all seem to realize is that this was a conversation about how we're going to operate our household as a lifelong couple. That merits a discussion even if it gets a little messy. I looked it up, and in 2025, the average age of a Redditor is 23. It shows. User Lana Del Roy comments, he posted a delightful edit, which essentially boils down to, now that I can see other people feel like this too, I'm taking my girlfriend's point of view more seriously instead of just earnestly listening to her from the start. But I bet none of you losers have the vast relationship experience that I do, and I bet you're all children, so you're probably wrong anyway. PSA, if you feel the need to start digging up irrelevant stats to gotcha your way into winning an argument, you've already lost. And the whole point of this, by the way, just to kind of rewind here, is she said that she was uncomfortable with them staying at their house without them being there. That is a pretty reasonable thing to say. That is not just a direct no, that is an explanation. I am not comfortable with people being on our home when we're not there. She even explains that this wasn't directed explicitly towards his friends, this is towards anyone. And that's going to be important for this next comment here. Linguist comments, No need to buy more decorations for the harvest fair. OP brought plenty of straw men. Just asking questions looking ass. Thanks for your comment. I'm seeing a lot of responses like this, so I'm curious, not trying to argue. I just really want to understand. In your mind, is the idea that any no should result in a no questions asked okay? To me, that kind of seems like a less communicative relationship, MO, but I really am asking what you think with an open mind. OP basically repeating himself. I'm seeing a lot of responses like this, so I'm just humbly asking here, in your mind, is the idea that any no should result in a no questions asked okay? To me, that kind of seems like a less communicative relationship MO, but I really asking what you think with an open mind. God damn, that is hard to fucking read fast. And again, my question for you, not arguing, just asking, is where does wanting to understand where she's coming from and arguing, judging begin? In your mind, should it be a no questions asked okay? I guess that feels like a less communicative MO to me, but I'd like to know what you think. Finally, in a different comment, he elaborates a bit further. That's interesting. Thanks for the comment. I guess for me, the idea that a partner never has to explain where they're coming from is more likely to end up with misunderstanding than trying to really get in there and understand their point of view and reasoning. I'd rather figure out why my partner feels how they do because that's a way for me to fully have their back, rather than just blindly accepting their veto or pretending to close friends that we're a united front. But I probably could have gone about it in a way that created a safer space for her. And finally, I'm asking this with an open mind. While I think there are obviously some situations where no is all you need to hear, do you not find it constructive to understand why someone is diametrically opposed to how you feel about how to run a household? Couldn't a no questions asked type of acceptance of any boundary lead to a bad relationship dynamic? Where's the line for you? Again, not arguing, just looking for clarification. And again, just for clarification for you, buddy, according to your own post, she did give you a reason. It wasn't just a direct no. It was the fact that she is uncomfortable with people being in your home when you guys are not there. That is a reasonable response that is not just a flat no. She did, according to you, gave you more information than just a simple no, beyond even the thing that it makes her uncomfortable. She explained that it's not just your friends, it's anyone. Were you expecting to dig into the deeper psychological reasons as she doesn't want people in her home when she's not there? Is that what you were wanting? Because now you're just becoming pedantic and railroading your girlfriend in order to make your friends happy who failed to plan for their concert. Like, buddy. Cross-posted from r/wedding. If that's not an omen, I don't know what would be. I hated my wedding and it's causing resentment. Hello everyone, I recently got married and I hate everything about the day to the point where I am considering an annulment/divorce. When we got engaged, we decided that we would elope. My passport had expired at the time, so it had to be in the States. And we had a trip coming up to Europe a few months later that was planned before we got engaged, so it made the most sense to elope because we didn't have time to plan a wedding, nor the budget, and honestly, I don't like my family. I'm estranged from both of my parents, enough to spend thousands for them to watch me get married and eat. My partner said that he wanted me to do whatever I wanted, but that he was worried that his parents would not accept our marriage. We went back and forth about it. We thought about doing a small wedding with only a few friends and family, but the time was fast approaching, and we had other things to think about, so that did not pan out. We decided we would do it in an outdoor museum in July in Miami. Foreshadowing. So the day comes and everything went wrong. It rained. Okay, wait, hold on. It's not foreshadowing if you literally explain it in the next sentence why that was a bad idea. It rained, my hair was ruined, I was hot and sticky, everyone was late, there was no cake or time to go to a restaurant, and I was really upset and in tears at how the day went. I specifically told my partner that I hated the day, and he said we could have another wedding, but I asked him to not file the marriage certificate, and we argued, and eventually I gave up and accepted to file it and change the date. But honestly, things haven't been good since. I am really resentful that he wanted to commemorate such a terrible date for me, and I'm ashamed that I wasn't strong enough to continue fighting for the marriage certificate to not be filed. I feel like this is a day I will never get back, and I'm actually so sad and embarrassed with how it went. I haven't told anyone that we got married. He's offered several times to pay for a wedding, and while it was nice to entertain the idea of punishing him, Jesus Christ, in that way, I realized that I was only really punishing myself because I would have to plan the wedding and risk all of that drama, and I specifically didn't want that. And I also feel like it delays our goal of purchasing a house if we have to pay for a wedding. He's offered to take me somewhere to renew our vows, but I don't want that either, because to me, it's not real, and it's a sham. Because we could literally had not filed the certificate, I don't have possession of it anymore. He had given it to his sister to file, and yes, I did ask for him to get it back from her. I did tell him no one had to know as well. It's making me very resentful that this is now our wedding date and the literal beginning of our marriage when all I wanted was to elope. At this point, I'm in therapy for myself, and we're in therapy as a couple, but I'm still so angry at the fact that he couldn't listen to me and we can't really make progress. It's at the point where I'm considering divorce or an annulment if possible. Has anyone else experienced this and their marriage survived? Okay, so you didn't properly plan your wedding, you rushed it on purpose, and it rained on your wedding day, and now you're wanting an annulment/divorce. And also, you admitted that you're actively wanting to punish your husband. He's offered several times to pay for a wedding, and while it was nice to entertain the idea of punishing him in that way, seriously, that's how you're viewing your marriage? I think you guys should get an annulment or a divorce. For his sake. Good God. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code OZ at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.